In this video, I want to demonstrate some useful techniques for welding on as well as painting the casters for your next metal project. I don't even remember the last time that I bothered to bolt a caster onto a project. I guess it would have to be the last time that I bought a Harbor Freight caster. Anyways, this particular project is going to live outdoors, so I opted for an all-metal caster, meaning there's no urethane, rubber wheels, or anything of that nature. But if you're using any type of synthetic material caster for your project, the following tips might be especially helpful for you. So everything that's happened so far is pretty self-explanatory. Measure out where the caster is going to be, grind down the paint, and expose the bare metal. Now I like to clamp down the caster so that it won't lift. It's going to remain flat against the work surface. And from there, I use cheap foil. I think I paid less than $4 for this particular roll, and it is a huge time and lifesaver. All I do is rip off a small piece and wrap the caster adequately, paying very close attention to the pivot part, the swivel part of the caster. I don't want any type of weld spatter or BBs jumping into that bearing housing and causing any type of hang-up. And this foil is also going to prevent any type of weld spatter or BBs from biting into a urethane or rubber wheel caster, as well as doing double duty as a heat shield. This is a fairly light duty application, meaning all I'm going to do is plug weld the bolt holes. I'm not going to do any type of stitching around the perimeter of the caster. So I like to tack opposing corners, and then I can remove the clamp. Now you may have noticed that I didn't get all 4 casters ground down, prepped, and ready for welding. I'm doing each one individually as I finish the previous one. The reason is the caster that I just welded has time to cool down as I prep the next caster. Now once the initial tacking of each piece is done, I can move around the workpiece in that circle pattern and plug weld or stitch weld the next side. This technique allows adequate cooling time and never heats the caster up into a damaging temperature. And having wrapped that caster in the foil, it's going to appear clean, shiny, and new when you're all done. And that's important, particularly important on a customer job. Depending on application, mainly whether the piece will exist indoors or outdoors, I like to add an oil back into the bearing trough. My first choice is usually a heavyweight gear oil. And of course, this is all assuming that your casters don't have a grease zerk. Alright, the casters have been successfully welded to the piece. Now we can move to paint. And for this, I'll be turning to another very common household product, Saran Wrap. Quick pro tip, be sure you give your casters adequate time to cool down. Saran Wrap is really cheap and perfectly suited to an application like this. Again, just pay very close attention to how you wrap up near the swivel point. Personally, I try to use the gap between the swivel and the stationary piece as my paint seam. But let's be honest, most people aren't going to get down on the ground, rest their head on the sidewalk, and check. I do. I'm that guy at the party, but most people won't. But you can definitely see how quickly and effectively Saran Wrap works as a masking component. Saran Wrap is designed to stick to itself, therefore I try to keep it on the roll until the piece is wrapped and then tear it off. It's a lot easier than ripping a piece off, trying to hold it flat and wrap at the same time, especially if you're working outside in a slight breeze. This piece was shot with a red oxide primer that I sprayed through an HVLP gun, but luckily they sell the exact same product in a rattle can, so I just came through and touched it up. And now it can dry overnight, and tomorrow it will get shot with its final coat. Voila! And you can see how easily this Saran Wrap comes off. And there you have it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.